Sonic satAM, one of the first ever Sonic cartoons from the 90s that coincidentally shared its time in the sun with its sister series, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Airing first on the 18th of September in 1993, this show was a massive part of growing up for me and really contributed to me becoming a diehard Sonic fan. Despite the show only having 26 episodes, the lowest of any Sonic cartoon series, by the way, I mean, unless we count Sonic Prime, but like, that show's still airing, so I'm gonna not. This show was so incredibly unique and well written that it became an instant classic, reeling in a lot of kids to become lifelong Sonic fans, some of them never having even touched a Sega console. And this year, the series turns 30 years old. And I know I'm a little late to the party, but I wanted to kinda, well, talk about it. From its creation, its legacy, and everything in between. So, why not get comfortable, and let's dive into this undisputed classic. It's November 24th, 1992. Sega is celebrating the widespread success of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Spirits are high. Sega has just cemented their place in the industry. It's a Sonic sweep, baby, and even Nintendo are starting to pay attention to this spiky blue upstart.
Kill that guy.
Hell, kids recognize Sonic the Hedgehog more than they recognize Mickey Mouse. And Sega did not want to take their foot off the gas. Keeping the pedal to the metal with the franchise, we're talking exhibitions at Epcot, plans for their own theme park in Sega World, a movie on the horizon, and, of course, a cartoon series. Enter
DIC,
who had not only managed to convince both Sega and ABC that they could make a Sonic TV series, but that they could make two of them at the same time.
But Milkshake,
I hear you ask.
wouldn't two completely different Sonic shows airing at the same time just create competition for Sonic with himself?
well, you see, DIC's executive vice president, Robbie London, had actually already thought of that.
We'll just, run one on Saturday, and, one during the week. Now, make sure you get my name right on the check, please. That's with 2 B's.
Which was absolutely a terrible idea, honestly. But hey, Sega and ABC were on board. Both shows would be very different tonally, with the weekday series being a more light-hearted, Looney Tunes style romp with slapstick comedy and fever dream-like backgrounds. Nothing ever too serious, with just enough questionable content to wonder if the writers were either on something or thinly disguising their kinks. While the weekend show would be a grittier, darker take on Sonic the Hedgehog. In this series, Robotnik had already taken over the place Sonic called home, and Sonic would be rebelling against him with a team of DIC's original characters, do not steal, the Freedom Fighters, to save the planet Mobius from his diabolical clutches. Trust me, that new Batman animated show, it's becoming kind of a big deal. And they were right. The series was a hit, pulling in ratings with its impressive cast and gorgeous animation. Remember, back in 1993, Sonic's video games didn't really have much in terms of a story at all. Apart from maybe a blurb in the game's manual that was never consistent between countries, they were fantastic games, of course, but ultimately were just that. They were just games. And during an era where we were getting tons of amazing video game releases, Sonic could have just been that. A flash in the pan, stopping here and never moving forward like so many other mascot platformers. But he didn't. He became a part of the zeitgeist, something you couldn't experience the 90s without. And I have always felt that this show is a massive part of the reason why. As a kid, you always want to know more when you find something cool to fixate on. But a lot of games in the 90s just didn't really plan for an overarching franchise or a world. Whereas with Sonic, these early cartoons, and eventually of course the comics, would help give kids just More of Sonic, more adventures, more world building, a story that continues from the games. And any great story needs to have a great villain. And satAM's take on Eggman is, in my humble opinion, the best the franchise has ever had, and probably ever will.
Oh, that's good. That's very, very good, Sniffly.
Dr. Ivo Julian Robotnik. Voiced by the legendary Jim Cumming, this Eggman feels like evil incarnate. No goofy theme parks or teaming up with Sonic on this guy's resume. Oh no, he is ruthless, cruel, malicious, and cunning. This Robotnik succeeds in taking over Mobitropolis, with his sights set on the entire planet of Mobius, to turn all its living inhabitants into his slaves. And this is a Robotnik that gets shit done. This is a Robotnik that succeeds. This is a Robotnik that, could you believe, has killed, has tortured, has actually bested our heroes, pushing them back into a corner. You know, like what Sonic Forces wanted you to believe happened. His tyrannical reach feels endless, but he's still not managed to root out the heroes and their home in the Great Forest. But rest assured, it is on this man's to-do list. Then we have the Freedom Fighters, the heroes of this story. Starting off, of course, we have Sonic the Hedgehog. Fast and impulsive, this incarnation isn't all too dissimilar to, well, any Sonic iteration, really, but he definitely has that 90s snarky, quippy attitude and rebellious nature.
Sal, are you asking if I can get through there? Sal, is the sky blue? Is dirt dirty? Do bears...
Sorry, I asked.
And I've always kind of liked Sonic with a bit of smug sass to him. A lot of modern Sonics tend to leave this out, which I think is kind of a shame. Then we of course have Tails the Fox. Hot off his first appearance from Sonic 2, in both Sonic satAM and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Tails kind of takes on this adopted kid brother to Sonic. In fact, this was literally a plot point in the latter series, which meant he wasn't the scientific genius he was later written to be.
I'm only 4.5 years old. I don't know how to write yet.
Wait, they made him 4.5 years old? How is he even holding a conversation? But instead just, well, more of a kid stand-in character. Tails didn't get a ton of episodes that were really focused around him, but he was an incredibly likable character, with a couple of episodes having him step up and actually come up with a solution for the team. His character would have had development further in a third season of the show, had it ever actually come to light, but we'll get to that. Next up is Rotor the Walrus, or Boomer if, you know, it's the pilot episode. A mechanic and inventor who isn't afraid to get his boots on the ground and help the team out with missions. This was kind of satAM's Donatello, the smart guy who does the machine stuff for the group. Though, like Tails, he did have a few episodes where he got to play the hero. Then we have Antoine Depardieu. Moving on, No, I'm kidding. He's a coyote and previous member of the King's Royal Guard. Or at least that's what he says in an episode.
I am a royal guard, brave and true, who gladly would be laying down my life for you.
Though later we see that he escaped with all of the other characters when they were just kids. So like, I mean, that's just a straight up lie. What Antoine is, without any debate, is comic relief. Kind of the butt of a lot of the show's jokes, and usually being central in some of the series' more silly episodes.
No! I will never talk!
Then I must make escargot!
But escargots are too special, you fiend! They must be prepared just right, you maniac!
Yes, of course. We start with plump, juicy snails.
Oui?
A little garlic.
Oh, oui again.
And...
Butter? Oui. Oh, yes, oui. Butter.
He's kind of the show's weakest character, but Antoine does something that no other Sonic character has ever done before or since. And that is confirming that the French are canon in the Sonic universe.
Yeah!
And next is Bunny Rabbot, a half-roboticized rabbit. Do you get it?
The Rabbot! My creation! What has science done?
Who serves as the team's muscle. With her combat skills enhanced by her robotic limbs, she is one of the few characters in the series who's shown to be able to take down SWAT and badniks with about the same efficiency as Sonic. She's also just an all-around, kind-hearted character, looking after Tails, spending time with Sally, heck, even backing up Antoine. The heart of the team. And I guess also confirming that the South is canon in the Sonic universe. Okay! And then next we have Princess Sally. A chipmunk with a cool head and the rightful heir of Mobotropolis. The team's voice of reason, its leader and love interest to Sonic.
You'll always be my hero, Sonic Hedgehog.
Her father, King Acorn, voiced amazingly by Tim Curry, was overthrown by Robotnik prior to the events of the series. Sally is an incredibly well-loved character, and undeniably the largest reason this series is still adored to this day. And finally, we have Nicole, Sally's portable computer that was left to her by her father. Nicole serves as Sally's way to hack into Robotnik's machines, the deus ex machina of many a plot, projecting holograms for presentations and the like, and would have had a much larger role to play in the overall narrative if we had gotten that third season of the show. But again, let's leave that story for Team Season 3, huh? The series takes place on the planet Mobius. You know, the place Sega just calls Sonic's Planet now? Which is just the stupidest fucking name. Like, imagine if we called Earth Greg's Planet, because a Greg lived here. If I can just take a moment to gush about how beautiful the locations in this series look. I mean, just look at this. The Great Forest feels so warm and inviting. Somewhere you'd believe Sonic and his anthropomorphized allies would inhabit. Robotropolis, meanwhile, feels cold and oppressive, like something out of a dark sci-fi future. Authoritarian, polluted, and metallic. This is what the whole of Mobius will look like if the Freedom Fighters don't succeed. Even some of the one-off locations like the swamps, Mobotropolis of the past, the Sky Temples, all of them look amazing and make me wish I'd tried to own some of the cells of the show, you know, before they became so hard to find. On the topic of Robotropolis and Robotnik, we have this series' unique take on the Badniks, or the roboticized citizens of Mobius. Unlike in the video games where Robotnik would just kinda power his goofy-looking robots with, you know, the little animals, satAM instead introduces the body horror elements of the roboticizer. Something that definitely sounds like a machine straight out of the 90s. Animal people go in, robots come out. But unlike in the video games where Sonic can just, well, you know, jump on a badnik and release the captured animal, this process is permanent. There's some episodes where the gang try to reverse the effects of the machine on Bunny and Uncle Chuck, but they never have any permanent success. And god, that one episode, Sonic's Nightmare, Jesus, that scream.
Sonic, where were you when the brains were handed out? Brains, brains, brains.
As a kid, that scene terrified me. That scream, man! This was a show that wasn't scared to be kind of a little bit messed up, and that's what I kind of love about it going back. From Cat's disappearance in the first episode to, well, the aforementioned Sonic's Nightmare, to the evil duplicate of Sally in the 3rd episode, this show wasn't afraid to be a little unsettling. And it wasn't afraid to have Sonic lose. Something that's now mandated to not happen to Sonic in modern media. Brother spent 6 months in a prison cell, presumably tortured by Eggman, only for him to still be spitting quips?
This is the end, Sonic.
Oh, hey, sounds like the party started. Want to let me go and join in? No? Of course not. You hate fun.
End scene.
If you sand off all the edges to Sonic as a character and a series, well, you get this. And that's just... it's wrong. It's wrong and I hate it. Sonic satAM was so memorable and impactful because it wanted to tell a story with bite and risk. Real risk. Not just move merchandise and play it safe. This show had surprisingly few filler episodes, which, given the small episode count, is greatly appreciated. Every episode felt like it had a purpose towards the Freedom Fighters' goals, destroying Robotnik's facilities, taking out his crystal mines, taking over the power plant. Each episode felt important, especially when we were reaching the end of Season 2. And I feel like Ben Hurst had wanted this kind of strong continuity from the beginning, but ABC had its mandates. So, how did this brooding, fun, and unique series pan out? Well, it got cancelled. Yeah, the Power Rangers showed up in 1993 and showed poor Sonic the door. The show was critically well received though, and by a lot of websites, it's still the highest ranked Sonic show. Man, what I would have given to just have had both of these shows succeed in the 90s. On the plus side, satAM was syndicated though, and reruns of this series would continue throughout the 90s and even early 2000s in some countries. We never got a conclusion though. A conclusion to maybe the biggest cliffhanger in the entire Sonic franchise. With Robotnik's Doomsday Project foiled thanks to the combined efforts of Sonic, Sally, and the Deep Power Stones, Robotnik was presumably dead. Yeah, like actually dead. Gone. Deceased. Shuffled off this mortal coil. Dunyan rings. The Freedom Fighters celebrated. Finally they could restore Mobitropolis to the place it used to be. They could figure out a way to rescue King Max. They could rebuild. Then, we see a small elevator rise from the rubble that was Robotnik's command center.
Yes!
The big round guy finally let Sonic defeat him. Well, don't celebrate too soon, Hedgehog. Now, it's my turn. And I'm not
It is very clear that this was not where the story was supposed to end. And Ben Hurst, one of the series' main writers, was pushing hard for a third series. And when that failed, he tried to incorporate satAM into the next animated series, Sonic Underground. And when that failed, then a movie to end things off. And when that failed, a comic in the Archie Supersonic Special series. He wanted to finish telling us this story. He wanted to give us the closure we all needed. Sadly, this wasn't meant to be. I don't want to go into all the details about this here, because, believe me, it is a massive story to tell. But if you do want to know more, then you should check out good old Groovy Jake's video, Ben's Vision, The Lost Sonic satAM 3rd Season/film. It's a fantastic watch, and covers everything that was known about all of Ben's efforts to see this series to a meaningful conclusion. I'll put the link in the video description below, but please stick around for the rest of the video, if you would. Now, there was at least some silver lining to this conclusion, and that's the Archie Sonic comics. While they didn't follow the series beat for beat, the comics were still set in the same kind of continuity as the satAM's show. We still had the Freedom Fighters, Robotnik, Snively, all of them were here, and while the comic did have its ups and downs, it at least gave the fans of satAM something to still hold on to and enjoy that had the Freedom Fighters center stage. Because outside of the comics, Sega really left us high and dry. The Freedom Fighters had cameos in Sonic Spinball that technically make them canon in-game as confirmed by TalesTube, but sadly had their own Mega Drive game, only known now as Sonic 16, cancelled. They also would have supposedly shown up in Sonic Mars, but, you know, that got cancelled as well. Feels like the Freedom Fighters really have had things kinda rough. The underdogs in the series and the underdogs in the right holder's eyes. And even within the Sonic community, I see quite a lot of negative stigma around them, which will forever puzzle me, but this is the continuity of Sonic we had before the games really started to tell us stories. I see people incorrectly stating that Ken Penders owns the Freedom Fighters, which, I mean, he obviously doesn't, people. The show came out before the comics. Read a little deeper than the first line of Google, people, come on! And a group that just really hate Sally. Though this isn't really anything new for the Sonic fandom. Remember Maureen? Oh, yeah, and the community hated her. Big the Cat? I mean, before he became a meme, he was reviled in the Sonic Adventure era.
They all want to have sex with Big the Cat.
But, I don't know. Maybe just, if you don't like it, don't be hateful? Because time inevitably marches on. And eventually, your favorite aspect of Sonic might well be the next thing Sega kicks out of the door.
シリーズとして続けていくために、ピクセルアートの 2D ソニックから大きく 3D アートの 2D ソニックっていう形で
Just some food for thought. So, for this amazing iconic series reaching the staggering age of 30, what amazing items or events did Sega have in store for us? We got a worst DVD release of the series by N-Circle that just recycled art elements from other packaging. Yep, that's about it from Sega, which is really disheartening if I'm being honest. The series was a big part of Sonic's early growth in the 90s, but it feels like Sega are embarrassed to embrace it. But when Sega has let its fans down before, the community has been the one to step things up. We've got Team Season 3 working on creating a series to finally end the show right. We've got the Sonic Villains team working on a fan movie that embraces and draws from every Sonic medium. From Sonic satAM, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the Archie comics, even the Fleetway comics. And we've got Ian Flynn contributing to both IDW comics and the games now. And he has been both a fan and a writer for the Archie series, and knows just how much the Freedom Fighter fans want to see them back again. So, maybe one day we'll see some of these beloved characters again. Or I'll just be keeping all of this copium to myself. Hey, stay back, I need this, And I think that's as good a place as any to round off this episode for now. So, once again, happy 30th birthday, Sonic satAM. Happy 30th birthday, Freedom Fighters. And thank you all for watching, fellow friends and fans of the series. Until next time, take care.